Let's get salty!
Everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and it's the beginning of a new week, and we are expecting a balance patch to at least be announced this week, could be even later today. And as always, I'm going to give my predictions on what the nerfs will be, and since they've hinted it's going to be a rather buff patch, I'll try and predict buffs. They're the hardest, but I'll give it my best. And as always, put your comments in the comments below of what you think will get nerfed, what you think will get buffed, and whoever guesses the most right, I don't know, you get a cookie? I don't have anything to give out right now, but if we hit that 69,420 milestone, you feel like I've earned your sub, we are going to do a giveaway at that milestone, and hey, maybe I'll give cookies to everybody. Who knows? You'll have to sub to find out. But as you can see on Aegis Replay across all ranks, we got 4 classes doing well, and well, we got 5 classes doing particularly just badly. And at High Legend, it's like Deathlight, Demon Hunter, and then Priest Rogan, another Demon Hunter, another Deathlight. You'll note Blood Decay, not really that high, and I'll talk about that in my nerf and buff predictions, but overall, yeah, I expect a lot of this stuff to at least some of it to get hit. I'm not expecting a ton of nerfs, and well, there's also this one pesky neutral card we might take a look at that at least a High Legend is in 42.5% of decks in Bloodsworn, but so is Vizier and School Teacher. And hey, Renathal's bumped up, but mainly because people play Blood Decay. Anyways, let's take a look at my predictions for nerfs and buffs. So with Deathlight, Frost Decay is just, it's too good. It's too good, right? Like, it's super oppressive, and this is the card I feel like that just always frustrates the hell out of people. Frostworm's Fury, 7 mana, deal 5 damage, freeze all enemy minions, summon a 5/5 Frostworm. I feel like it's time for this card to finally get hit. I don't think it needs to get obliterated. It's a triple rune card. Triple rune cards are supposed to be really good. But if you're constantly, you could discover these, right? Even outside of that class, the problem a lot of the time isn't it's just 2 of them, it's 3, it's 4. So for me, I just feel like you could make it deal 5 damage to a minion, and you're doing that whole controlling the board thing, you're locking your opponent out, but at least you're not pointing that damage face. I still think it's a strong card. I think that's a realistic change, or it could go to 8, something like that. But Frostworm's Fury for me is kind of that outlier card, because when I look at Frost Decay, I really don't know what else you're hitting. I guess you could look at Overseer, but it doesn't feel super OP to me. It's very strong. Marrow Manipulator is another really strong card, but this one's not as discoverable. I mean, you have to run Amalgams, which Frost Decay doesn't do. I guess you could get it from the 2 mana spell, but overall, I don't expect a huge obliteration of Frost Decay, but man, just seeing this card change, I feel like that would do a lot. Unholy is another deck that is doing incredibly well and could get dialed back. If there was one thing I could see, is Necromancer having its buff reverted, but the only issue is the 8-drop that goes along with it also would get nerfed, and I feel like they don't ever do that type of thing. But honestly, like, Unholy's very counterable because it doesn't have a lot of bursts from hand, right? Like, you control their board, you can beat them, so if anything, I would just buff some of the new cards to try and make that Death Rattle stuff go, but if I was to make a prediction, it would be Battlefield Necromancer. And for Blood, I actually don't expect a nerf. I really don't. The numbers have fallen off like we saw at Higher Legend, 50%. I know people complain about Vampiric Blood, but the card itself isn't that good. It's discovering them that's good. The new weapon is solid. Screaming Banshee is solid, but honestly, you buff up a bunch of other classes. Blood Decay, which has already fallen off a lot, is going to fall off even more, and it's just a popular deck for the most part because people like playing it. And do you want to destroy something because people like playing it? I actually don't see a Blood Decay nerf happening. The other class we were taking a look at in that package was Demon Hunter, and for me, there's only one nerf that I could really see happening, and this is not a I'm not confident on this prediction, but Relic Vault used to cost 3, and the relics seem to be just super, the mana cheat's ridiculous, so maybe bumping this back to 3, or you could take a look at maybe Relic of Dimensions and bumping it to I don't like this card. The mass mana cheat this thing creates is disgusting. Another card you could consider taking a look at that I don't think will happen, Lady Astheno, is pretty degenerate and the big win condition a lot of the times for Relic and Outcast, but I feel like they want Demon Hunter to be competitive. They like the strategy. We've seen it a lot with Demon Hunter over the years, but maybe bumping Lady Astheno to 4, slowing it down a little bit, although with the Relics it's always 0 anyways, but still, I'm gonna just go with the Relic Vault to 3, but those are the other things you could consider. Honestly, I don't see any other class cards getting nerfed. If Druid was better, I could see an interaction like the Nuber-Khan Tony Jailer getting hit, but that's literally all Druid has going on. I don't think they want to kill it, and I don't see that happening yet, although I really don't like that interaction. Pure Paladin numbers are always good, but it's a very counterable deck. I don't think you change Paladin. And I feel like a way of nerfing Death Knight, honestly, is Nerubian Vizier, maybe making the condition, the spell cost 1 less, something like that. Make Vizier 4 mana, I don't know. But I feel like Discover is just, that's the big problem, right? With Death Knight, is Discover's too good, but nerfing a neutral card because of one class feels really bad. So I don't know if they have a better solution for Discover, but overall, I would just probably bump Vizier. Honestly, School Teacher, big offender, but they already nerfed it once, then rebuffed it. I just can't imagine them doing another thing to it. I really can't. And lastly, Astalor being in like every deck. Do I see them nerfing it? No, because Astalor doesn't elongate games like Prince Renethal does. It ends them. And I feel like they want that in the game. Let's be honest. They like games to be a certain length, and Astalor is that finisher for a lot of classes that don't have it, and the card does feel a lot less toxic without Bran in the game. Sadly, Shadow Step's still there, but without Bran, a lot of the decks this card appears in, it's just a solid, good utility card that deals damage, gives you armor, can be like a pseudo board clear, not always a finisher. I just actually don't think it'll get nerfed. Even though Prince Renethal was in more decks when it got nerfed, I just feel like this shortens games, it's gonna stick around. So what about buffs? And there are a lot of classes struggling, and well, across all ranks, Hunter's doing quite well. I don't know if you buff any of the new cards. I personally like to see Big Dreams go dormant for 1 turn. Like, this card just seems just terrible, absolutely terrible. I'd love to see it go dormant for 1 turn, or maybe making Stranglethorn Heart 9 mana, take a mana off of it, make it come down a little bit early, because there's just not a lot to get you to that point. And again, none of this stuff's seeing play, and it's really cool. So that's kind of what I would buff. For Mage, none of the new cards are really that bad. I'd be terrified, honestly. Terrified to buff. I've heard Light Show at 2. I feel like that would go from a bad card to Omega Broken at 2. I'd like it to target the lowest health enemies, but the problem is the card text is so full. I feel like you'd have to buff an older card, and the only card I could think of is Reverting Spite Siren. We've seen kind of a resurgence of Nagamage lately. It's a really scary buff because at 4, this card was pretty broken, but wasn't like tier 1 broken. They preemptively nerfed it. It's one that stands out to me. Another one's like Firelands Portal. You could make this 6 mana. I don't know why they didn't buff it originally. I could see this absolutely going to 6. Paladin's in good shape. I would not buff the class. Priest absolutely needs some help. None of the new cards are honestly that bad. I don't know what you buff. When I'm playing Control Priest, my biggest issue is AoE. Got all the late game removal. I got single target removal, but I can't clear early board. And there's like no AoE outside of like Holy Nova, which they just buffed to go face. So I really don't know what they could buff other than like undead minions more, but they're all premium statted. They all cost the same mana cost. So honestly, for Priest, I don't know. They unnerf Boon. They unnerf Priestess because Radiant's gone. I don't think these even matter if you do that, but I don't see them helping Priest. So I don't know. I feel like they just should put like a Spirit Lash in the core set. I'll go with that. I'm going to predict Spirit Lash goes to the core set because they just need some early AoE, and I feel like that would do so much. Rogue and High Legend doing really well with Miracle Road. None of the new cards are going well, and I feel like they're going to want to buff something in the combo deck. Disc Jockey to me is like the obvious standout. It's terrible. A 2 mana 4/1. You could probably cut it in half, but I feel like you could make Disc Jockey like 1 mana because, you know, like Swashbuckler and Babbling Book and all those cards, it just seems more common with that. I also shouldn't expect too much rogue buff, so I'll just stick with Disc Jockey. For Shaman, Saxophone Soloist, a 1/3. Like, would it matter at all? I'll go with that. Jazz Bass could be a 3/2. I don't really know why it's a 2/2, but you could definitely make it a 3/2 weapon. And I wouldn't mind seeing like Brass Elemental is like a 3/4. Just giving it a little bit more health might do the trick for this card, as again, it seemed like no play. For Warlock, I feel like it's just the fatigue package. You're not buffing, you know, imps. We know that, and we're not buffing the Murloc package from Sunken City. I don't think you're buffing Rin. I'd love to see Symphony of Sins get buffed that you can discover any of the movements right out the gate. That would make the card so much better. I'd love to see Opera Soloist give 4 damage to all enemy minions. Like, just 3, even on turn 5, doesn't feel like enough. 4, old Flame Strike. I could absolutely see that happening. But you're looking at the fatigue cards like, this is an insane amount of stats. I don't see see the point of buffing that. Crescendo's one that does feel a little bit weaker because early on, it doesn't deal much damage for 3 mana. So buffing this to 2 could happen, but man, that's pretty scary because, again, anything that could go face like that is pretty terrifying to buff. But if I had to pick one fatigue card, because all the other ones seem fine, probably Crescendo to 2. And Warrior, I don't think needs any buffs. The class is thriving. It's, no, I'm just kidding. All the riffs, 1 mana less. I will accept nothing less than all the riffs, 1 mana less. I can't imagine that would break the game at all. Rockmaster Voon, I just like to see either make it 3 mana or Battlecry, draw a minion, then copy a minion of each minion type in your hand, right? You get guaranteed value right away. I'd like to see it draw a card personally. I think that'd be sweet. But yeah, outside of, 3 riff buffs, Rockmaster Voon, I think this card's actually pretty good. I would also make Power Slider a 1/3 just to put it in line with the other rogue minion. Like, why not? I know this card's not terrible, but like, it just feels weird. And neutrals, I don't think there's anything you buff. I can't imagine it. I mean, most of it's not good, but they buff class cards for the most part, so I'm not really gonna suggest any of that. And yes, I do think they'll nerf the Twig. The numbers are ridiculous. I hope they go for refresh 10 mana crystals. They did the same thing to Lightning Bloom. I would imagine they go with that. So hopefully Wild will be kind of playable, but probably broken by like 80 other things because it is. But yes, I do expect Twig to get hit. And those are my buff and nerf predictions. We'll see how many are absolutely horribly wrong, like we like to do on the channel, and how many we get right. And hopefully I can let you know maybe later today. Who knows? Stay tuned for that. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day and stay salty, my friends.